Well, who's excited for some pretentious student film shenanigans? Yeah. I think this is the first official commentary I've done. Well, it's not the first. I did a few on Facebook. Uh, I did like a few for Facebook, like live stream things. But I have not actually posted any on YouTube. So this is the first official one. Might even redo commentaries for pretty much all of them. So that's pretty exciting, I think. And I am talking over my own opening credits, which was really just an excuse to showcase the town I was in for college and currently attending SUU in Cedar City, Utah. So this is the main street. That's our football stadium right there. Just kind of a moment to just really soak in the atmosphere. My big thing was a lot of, I'll get into the inspiration behind Noir Man. But a lot of it was very much I wanted to kind of showcase Cedar City's beautiful landscape, both in spring and fall, and especially during winter. It is very gorgeous during the winter. And yeah, so Nowhere Man started out weird because I finished up Era of the Mammoth Eyes, which was a huge project. And I kind of just wanted to do something a little smaller, but I didn't know quite what to do. But I was listening to a bunch of Beatles music, like around the time as college was starting up, freshman year. And I just was riding my bike one night, and I thought, wouldn't it be really cool if I did a short film that used Beatles music to tell its story? And that ended up happening. That's where the inspiration came. I really didn't have a set story yet, but then I took me a little bit to get into it, and I thought, wouldn't it be cool if it was about like having a mental roadblock, having to deal with not knowing where to go artistically. So that's what I went with. And yeah, there's me. Just brushing my teeth. Yes, that's actual blood. uh, yeah, that's fun. My gums aren't amazing. I don't have any cavities, but I'm like most people. I don't brush my teeth as often as I should. That's not a good thing. But Eleanor Rigby is maybe my favorite Beatles song ever. So it was kind of a given that I would have to start off the beginning of the movie with Eleanor Rigby. Sorry if you heard some stuff going on in the house in the background. I can't control that. Yeah, but I love Eleanor Rigby. I think it's a very, very calming, very sad, but very introspective song. I think it's one of the Beatles' best for that reason. Yeah, I wanted to also use the least amount of handheld I've ever done. Because I do a lot of handheld, like just holding the camera and just pointing it at me stuff. So I very much wanted to make it the least handheld it possibly can, which I didn't have like a crane or anything. This is the Summa. It is an art museum that's right, like, as you can see, just the street away from my dorm. Very beautiful. I love it. Yeah. Now, this is a edit I am very proud of. Winter. Fall. And it transitions just like that. Very, very happy with that. That took way more planning on that part, and then it's winter again. But like the whole idea is to showcase this is a flashback, and I thought it would be very cool to use a match cut there. That was a match cut. Well, technically not match cut, but it's basically keeping your eye of the line onto something when we transition time. There's a lot of geeky stuff I wanted to do. A lot of this could very clearly be just nonsensical, I'm smarter than thou kind of stuff, which I never wanted to do. I very much wanted to keep it simple. This is not actually an art class. This is my literary class I couldn't film in the art class, but I just very quickly phoned it up and just went with this real quick way to get across the exposition. You can see there's a helicopter in the back there, briefly. This is a fun one, because this whole thing, I wanted each scene to match up like the tone of each song, which meant most of the planning for this went down to the songs. I wanted to make sure each song flowed into one another like an actual story, because that was the biggest key importance for me, even with something as trivial as that. You could be like, oh no, you don't really need to think about the song order, but I'm like, no, you do. Because the songs give across the tone each scene needs to do. And Maxwell's Silver Hammer, a song about a guy who pretty much murders people with a hammer, actually fits the idea, from at least for me, of the how comparing your own like art to someone else's can deteriorate your own perspective on yourself, and it doesn't help when you're trying to process how to create your own art. And I'm using art in the general sense. I'm not using it in the high art sense. I'm using it in the how most people who that's an actual art textbook. That was my art textbook. Look at all those art. Looks amazing. But like I really wanted to like the idea is art is not this high almighty thing. Art is very very much based around different things, like what is art. So yeah, anything can be art in that regard. A little bit on the nose, but I'm kind of fine with it. Yeah. This, I believe this shot is the longest shot in the movie. I might be wrong. I didn't want any of the shots to go on too long, but I think this is the longest. I may or maybe not be wrong on that. So don't quote me. Don't quote me on that. I know that the thing itself is around 15-20 seconds, the clip. And we're back. And into the titular Nowhere Man. This was actually, surprisingly, one of the easiest songs to film for. This took no time at all to do the whole thing. And one of many Kubrick shots. I am in love with that shot in terms of perspective. I think it's a bit overdone in here, or just anywhere, but I love it nevertheless. I actually zoomed in because you could see the camera there, and I did not want that, so... that was just a random book. I literally just went to an art studies area and just went, quick, grab one book. But this one I like. I like it a lot. It's very chill. Very jazzy version of Nowhere Man, which is a very rock-heavy one. Very happy with that shot. That was something my dad actually told me about, because he actually had to go back to school to become a teacher. My dad was actually a journalist. And he pointed out he loved being in the library at SUU for pretty much because you could see the snow melting across the ice. So I thought it would be really cool to find a chance to to film that. Peanut Butter Falcon. Y'all should go watch it. And you can also, if you very, very carefully, see how my mustache slowly grows all over the place throughout this. Shook the camera to give the perspective of a pen moving. It was also great not having to speak in this movie. Like, the one time I used slow-mo in this entire thing. JPEG, JPEG, everybody's waiting for something. I don't know what I just said there. But now we've set up the weird, trippy imagery of the Nowhere Man as an idea. This song pissed off the YouTube copyright strike law. I'm very careful with copyright. I was very careful wanting to make sure that all the songs would be very careful because Beatles music is copyrighted. So I was very cautious with which ones I did and didn't use, but for some reason, the original Blackbird had John Lennon's voice in it, even though it was a different orchestral, different everything. And that set off the system. It blocked the whole thing. And I figured that out within 2 days of trying to drop it. So I had to go back through and find another Blackbird cover that fit the time length, everything, and fit the scene very well. And I thankfully managed to find one that I think very much works. And the first of many Blackbirds. But I'm very unhappy with the fact that I was unable to use the John Lennon one, but I'm also very happy that overall I was able to get something out. That's not ice cream, that's edible cookie dough, which is a real thing, and it's amazing. Take that as a college student who spends 90% of his time just doing homework and eating junk food. And we just transition to the evening. Most of this movie I shot at different days, over the course of different days, just trying to film different parts of Cedar. This, in fact, this whole small segment of all the birds flying took actually a few days to do the entirety of. A few nights, I mean. Very happy with how it turned out. And that was a fun thing. We put like a Merry Xmas thing because we couldn't put an actual tree in our dorm. They kept those lights off past Christmas. That's Main Street of Cedar. And I love it. It's now officially dark. Even more on the nose, but hey, you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes. This took about 3 minutes to shoot because I would move around and then transition. Sneaky, sneaky. Yeah, I wanted to do a scene that very much was kind of a landscape, but I couldn't do a full landscape, so I went with a long shot. I think the long shot works. And I was very careful with this because I wanted to make sure it looked right. Yeah, I put way too much thought into every single shot in this movie. I don't know, I really, really wanted to make sure each shot worked. In a lot of regards, I was very deliberate with this. Actual sketchbook, and you'll see that I sketchbook a lot of Lego stuff. I'm huge into Lego. It's like the only thing I draw. I don't know, I draw a bunch of other stuff. Peanut Butter Falcon poster there again. If you look carefully, you'll actually see a shot where it's not on there. GoPro! That's the GoPro! I used a GoPro! Yeah! I have a GoPro I got that I don't use, because GoPros are incredibly distracting if you don't use them right. So I didn't want to make this weird fisheye lens look, so I was very, very cautious with that. And yeah, the GoPro. I will say I will be using more of a GoPro. I have a cool idea of where I want to take that, involving a upcoming short film, The Hunter and the Soldier. One of the concepts is the hunters in that will be having a fisheye lens type perspective with their GoPro. So, yeah. And there's my family. 421. Just be glad I wasn't 420. But no, I actually usually only went till 1. And I actually changed my alarm clock to make it look like it was 4 o'clock. It was actually like maybe 12, which is still not good, but eh. See, foreshadowing. I wish. I wish that was deliberate foreshadowing. That was kind of an idea on the moment of taking that and going with it. Yeah. So, yeah, that, and falling asleep, which I've done several times. Well, not on my desk, I'm usually in bed. Nice shot of someone just blowing off the snow off a roof. That's a cool, that's one of our older, look, this is my favorite shot. This is my favorite shot in the entire thing. Well, my second favorite. My first favorite's in this. This is also my favorite song in the entire covers I was able to find. I love it. It's very melancholy, and I liked the idea of like doing the, because the thing with cedar is it can just change on a dime with the snow, with how much snow you're dealing with, and I liked this idea of a very cold thing to do this. Essentially, the all is lost moment, the big midnight of the soul, for our protagonist, which I haven't even actually said his name. Maxwell. It's Maxwell. I went with Maxwell, because it's a reference to Maxwell Silverhammer. So you could, I guess, interpret it as Maxwell Silverhammer is how he basically is how he's ultimately worsening his creative crutch he's dealing with by comparing himself. You could say that. I don't know. That's open to you. I really do not want to give my perspective on this. Not because I don't have anything to say, but I feel the movie is pretty overt. I kind of made it so, because I felt if I didn't, the audience would be lost. And I still feel like a lot of people were genuinely lost with what the heck Nowhere Man is actually about. Or they kind of got it, but it was trippy, which, fair enough. Fair enough. I think that's just a weird thing when you're dealing with, like, works that are incredibly silent-based. This was accidental also, this thing right here. That just happened. So I just kept in. That reminds me of Return of the Man through it, is the bus door almost closed on me while I was walking out of it, and I ended up keeping it, just because. If you actually know how that building works, you could literally have gone the other way, but yeah. I don't know, builds tension, and I've done that a couple of times where I've taken the long way around the auditorium. It's bad enough he slept in it, too. That's what happens when you overwork. You end up sleeping in later. So. This is something I realized I should have changed. I don't think it works as a shot, but it's fine. None of those classes I'm actually in. I was in an intro to art class and have had to take a few art classes, but yeah. I love how every shot, because I'm freezing, looks like I'm about to burst into tears. It worked wonderfully, the cold. I'm so used to living in I live in Utah, St. George, Utah. You might know it because we filmed the movie High School Musical. Was filmed there. High School Musical 2 was filmed there, and it's a desert. Cedar is a desert, but it's a higher altitude. Favorite shot right there. That's my favorite shot in the whole movie. Anyways, but I was gonna say Cedar is an hour away from St. George. And more cold. I am used to St. George, which is very hot most of the time. So it was very weird getting used to a different climate when I'm so used to trying not to die of heat. But yeah, just a case of just trying to build up. This originally this was going to be the song that would lead into Eleanor Rigby. But I realized I had more footage and more to do with this scene. It was a scene that I realized needed to be longer. So what ended up happening was I just used an Eleanor Rigby reprise for the trippy stuff. This was originally going to lead into it. But I'm fine with how it turned out. It separates each scene very well, I think. And I think it ultimately allowed for the thing to become more focused near the second half, I guess. Yeah. Oh. That's where I work. I work at a movie theater. So I just quickly shot that to give kind of this thing. Yeah. And I know what you're thinking. Where's this guy's roommate? Easy answer. My roommate was gone on the weekends. So I just kind of... He's probably listening to this, actually. But I kind of wanted to give, like, a little... Oh, yeah, there's a roommate here. It's not just one guy. Which I really... The reason none of my roommates are in it is I really did not want to drag any of them into it. Just because... I don't know, I don't like dragging people into doing stuff they might not want to do, so... And I don't know, I didn't know how to do the story without it. But I think it works. A little taste of horror, just a little tiny taste of horror with the darkness. But I was also very careful because if you are using natural lighting, it'll just look completely black. So I did that intentionally to kind of give this weird, almost like dream-like quality to the whole sequence. Like I kind of wanted to, because it becomes very clear even this is part of the dream or something. I don't know, you might argue he actually dealt with it physically. You can argue that, yeah. That was a shot I kept refining over and over and over again at that sketchbook, because no matter what, you would see the shadow of my hand at one point. So I kept zooming in, but making sure it looked right. It took way more work. That's how careful I was with this. Oh man. I had that green screen up that whole time, so I just shot with the green screen to create that look. And I'm pretty happy with it, too. And how it's a case where I know my green screen effect isn't the best, so I decided to lean into it, I guess. It's like I can't do everything amazingly, so I'll try and create something out of this that's distinctive, that takes my zero budget and works with it. That was my plan. And now that this series of shots was some of the most complicated green screen I've ever done, because it's all about overlay, about overlaying it over and over again and moving the thing around and making sure it created this depth of field look where things are repeating. It was much harder than it looked, but I'm very happy with how it turned out. Yeah. It was funny. I premiered this with my family, and my sister Nicole she was just not ready for this. That's a great shot. I love that shot. This was fun. I just decided to go nuts with it. Some of this was footage I realized I couldn't use, footage I already used, and I kind of just wanted to make this very trippy, almost this weird. What would you find like at an art gallery, like at a photography, like part of an art gallery? It's trying to give off this meaning. So I liked this idea, just going all out with the green screen and having clips that aren't supposed to blend in together, and even reusing stuff. It was a lot of fun, and it took the longest amount because it took a lot of planning, and this was also probably the big thing I was building around this whole thing. Was I really just liked this idea of just going trippy. Because, yeah. And I will say the law of near enough, which will come soonish. I don't know when, because I don't know how my schedule is going to be for the next thing, but that will be even more trippy. Get ready. This is going to look chill by comparison. Oh. I'm gonna. There's a shot that's coming up that I really like. That I did, right there. I liked that. That was a fun little last minute idea I did. So. And now the scene that I actually reshot completely from scratch was this. Because the original, I wanted this idea that, like, the idea was I was wanting to, like, end up on with the physical sketchbook. So I had actually photographed, like, physical sketchbook drawings I had, and I wanted to make it look like he was in the sketchbook. But it looked terrible. It genuinely looked terrible. And I was like, I could do better with this. So I decided to redo the whole thing and not have it be a sketchbook, just be me in front of a green screen, white background, have a different me to represent the nowhere man or whatever, yeah. And, like, have the whole thing kind of just come together to, like, this. It was much easier than just shooting it and having the photograph be like a sketchbook. I think it looks much better as a result. And I kind of liked the idea of working with the green screen to kind of create this black outline. Like, this unintentional black outline, even if it's very staticky. No, I'm happy with it. I'm happy with it. I am not happy with this unintentional edit coming up. Get ready. Get ready. You'll know it when you see it because it bugs me. Because it was not supposed to happen, but it did somehow. That was not intentional, guys. That was saved for a shot coming up later, but for some reason, when I exported it, there was no going back. It just ended up there, which I guess you can have that be a technical error? Sure. If I want to say it's something more artistically meaningful, sure, go ahead. I don't know. Yeah. Stock footage is wonderful. I literally got some stock footage of galaxies. It was fun. Very happy with that shot. That was what it was used for. I wanted to use it to, like, represent that they were floating out in space. And it gets more trippy at the end. This was, there's, like, a garden in St. George that was, like, doing a Christmas lights, and I love this garden. It's one of my favorite places in all of my hometown. But this is easily... This was, like, the shots I did not want to, like, showcase all of, because I'm very happy with all of it. It was very pretty, all the Christmas lights here. So I like the idea of this is, like, him journeying through the... I don't know. I have an actual story idea I went with this, but, yeah. I like that. I love it so much. I'm very happy with all that. There was a shot that just... I am so stinking proud of, because it was not intentional. That shot where the light... It almost looks like the pointillistic style that was combined with it wasn't postmodernism. It was what was it? Post-impressionism. That's what it was. It was Van Gogh's entire art style was post-impressionist by nature, and so I liked how it unintentionally looked post-impressionist like that briefly. So I'm very happy with that. That was unintentional. That was just a case of I matched the two things up because I thought it would look cool, and it looked better than I could have ever imagined it looked. So, by the way, I was also pissed off when this thing premiered on YouTube. The thing on my, I put it on, we have a big screen, and when we premiered it, it ended up coming out as 360p when the whole thing, and I do mean the whole thing, I did 4K. I'd put the whole thing on 4K or 1080 if I couldn't do 4K for a shot. And I'm very happy with how it looks. It's visually the best looking one I've done. Yeah. Rough draft. This is late assignment. You should probably have gotten this in before spring break, but hey, getting it in. It's better to get it in than not get it in, as I always say. One of the very first shots, if you actually seen the announcement trailer, that was one of the very first shots I ever did of the movie. Nice overhead of St. George, cut to Cedar City, even though it works. You can say it's the same city. It's never said what the actual city is. This shot went on longer. I even cut it down intentionally. So a lot of those are cuts I made within the clip. This was a scene I was very cautious about. In a lot of regards, just because I really wanted to set up this idea of winter to spring. Like this whole idea of him basically not wanting to, basically this whole him having a creative roadblock, which we've all dealt with, and there are different ways of handling it. Like, that being, like, he transitioned to spring with him having a creative push again, finding a creative angle. I liked the idea of using winter for that, in my opinion. That was a shot I'm happy with. Yeah, love that shot. Very happy with it. I just set the camera. I have a basket, so I set the camera down on the basket. It's a little more obvious in one of the upcoming shots, but I did that, and I'm very happy with how it looked. But yeah, this scene, this was actually one of the final shots I did. Final scenes. A few of the shots here. Some of them are some of the earliest shots I did, and some of them are the oldest, and they kind of come together, and you can tell. Pretty much because the ones you didn't see were the final shots I did. Yeah, like that. Which the camera also slides at one point. Yeah, right there. Boom. Camera slides. I don't know, it works. I like it. I don't know, someone might be off-put by it. This has been such a weird thing. I'm usually pretty negative about my own stuff, but I'm pretty happy with how No Man turned out. So. And All You Need Is Love, for me, was the perfect way to end this thing. To start it off on a big orchestral choir piece with Eleanor Rigby, and to end it on All You Need Is Love, which is a very climactic song by nature. And the only time you hear actual diegetic sound within the world. I might have slaughtered it, but non-diegetic versus diegetic, I was very careful with that. Because some don't even give a crap about diegesis as a sound or visual principle. And I liked this idea of, like, the sound being gone and like, all the sound coming back. I don't know. It was a fun way. I like how it ended it. And I'm just going to let this play out. And now, a little tribute to all the artwork I had. That was the first thing I wanted to make sure that pretty much any of this material got a moment to shine, like a little spot to go. Here is a tribute to all the incredible artwork from the Suma, which had some really cool stuff that was from local stuff. do some architecture around the college. I just wanted to make sure each of it was given a moment to really properly be addressed. Because I feel like not, as someone put it, not saying what art was created by what is not a good idea. Credit your artists. If you have fan art or just any art. And then we get to the credits, which are mostly true. Mostly. I wish these people were helping out as much as they did, but I don't know. I consider a producer anyone who backs you up. I don't have the money for producers. But yeah, I just like giving that out there. And the second time for Nowhere Man. Kind of feels fitting to end the movie on Nowhere Man. Music by the Beatles. Very specific. Starring Christian Paystrup, who was talking during this. I think some people might wonder what Phantom Reductions is. That was something my sister came up with, so I just have it as a secondary thing to put on credits and stuff. Anonymous. All the music credits. VFX by iMovie and Facebook Video, because some of those weren't done by green screen. Special thanks, I even had to update that. Yeah, that happened as well. My great-grandmother sadly died in the middle of the production, so I wanted to give her a tribute. It was yeah. It's been a long week, guys. Anyways, hope you enjoyed that commentary. Goodbye.